during that time.
Critics of Pakistani President General Pervez Musharraf are celebrating a challenge to his authority as a victory for civil society. The country's Supreme Court ruled his suspension of the Chief Justice was illegal and overturned it. President Musharraf had accused the judge of abusing his powers, but a presidential spokesman says Musharraf accepts the decision. Meanwhile, parts of Pakistan have become a hotbed for Islamic extremists. Last week, militants launched a series of suicide attacks on government forces. U.S. State Department correspondent Zain Verji has more on the latest violence and efforts to rein in the extremists.
Militants take revenge on Pakistan's president, hitting back after Pervez Musharraf ordered an attack on the pro-Taliban Red Mosque. So they tore up a truce and declared war. Now Pakistan is in flames. Just to give you a sense of the crisis, the attacks happened hours apart from each other on Thursday around Karachi and in the oil-rich south. Hundreds of miles away, close to the Afghan border, a mountainous area known as Waziristan. Now, this is the problem area. It's a tribal region, it's lawless, and it's very remote. And it's here that U.S. intelligence officials say that Al-Qaeda and the Taliban have regrouped, and it's become a safe haven. Pakistani troops are going in to rout extremists out. They failed the last time. Experts say to win, the president has to make a choice.
Will Musharraf take this as a signal that he needs to reactivate his kind of double-barreled policy of keeping the militants quiet but not putting them out of business, or whether he's really going to take them on?
The senior State Department official says the U.S. is beefing up Pakistani troops, providing equipment, border security and intelligence. Remember, U.S. and NATO troops are right next door in Afghanistan. That official acknowledges the bloodshed is likely to worsen and Pakistan will be a mess for a while. Musharraf himself is a target. The U.S. backs him, an important ally since 9/11.
He's shown the determination and the authority and the ability to deal with some of these very difficult situations.
Washington says Musharraf is the man to bring democracy to Pakistan, but critics wonder if he's committed.
Musharraf has really treated the civilian secular parties as his real enemy, and he has treated the religious parties as potential allies.
If Musharraf is not effective in cracking down on militants, the U.S. has threatened to do the job itself. And remember, too, that everything that's happening in Pakistan right now has extra significance and is more amplified because it's an election year and President Musharraf wants to preserve himself. Zain Verji, CNN, Washington.
Pakistan's Foreign Minister Khurshid Qasuri says it's a bad idea for U.S. forces to go into Waziristan unannounced and alone. He defends Pakistan's army as being quite capable of dealing with the extremists there.
The United States army is not magicians. We know what they are going through in Iraq and in Afghanistan. Pakistan army is quite capable of doing whatever the American army can provide it. We have intelligence. Let's be fair. And, you know, this sort of reckless comment which comes does a lot of damage. And this war against terrorism or this war against extremism cannot be won by any unilateral actions. You need support of the international community. You need support of the people involved. In this case, we need support of the people of Pakistan. Any action that the United States takes which will lessen the support for action against militants and against extremists will be counterproductive.
All right, now the U.S. military has been offering to lend a hand in the fight against the terrorists near that Pakistani-Afghan border, but that doesn't equate with sending in U.S. troops, at least in the Pakistani view. Our Jamie McIntyre is at the Pentagon with some more details of the offer, though. Jamie, what's on board in this offer?
Well, the U.S. military is anxious to help Pakistan if it goes into that Waziristan area, but it knows it's a very tricky situation. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Peter Pace, just traveled to Afghanistan with CNN Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr, who's traveling with him. Here's what General Pace told my colleague Barbara Starr.
We're working real hard with President Musharraf, offering to work as closely with intel and with kinetic effects as he is comfortable working with us, and we're working through that.
So you can see that they're walking a very fine line. The U.S. wants to provide any assistance. Essentially, it's offering that assistance, but it's well aware that Pakistan may not take it because too much help from the United States, as you just pointed out in that previous statement from the Pakistani official, too much help can actually hurt.
Does the foreign minister make a good point? Is it reflected there that it could be counterproductive for the U.S. to try to put its own troops in there? But another part of that interview, when we talked to him, he did say very clearly that Pakistan, I believe they're already receiving U.S. military aid, but he talked about the police there in Waziristan, the frontier police, things like that, where they may be asking for help.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely right that it would be counterproductive, and that's why you see the United States being very careful about staying on the sidelines. That doesn't mean that the United States would never go into Pakistan without Pakistani permission. If they had enough intelligence, they really thought, for instance, they could get Osama bin Laden, it might be a case where the U.S. would act and try to get forgiveness later rather than permission ahead of time. But they're also aware that that's a very risky proposition because anything that they do like that, any unilateral action they take without close consultation and approval of Pakistan really threatens to undermine the position of Pervez Musharraf, whose grip on power appears to be more tenuous by the day.
All right. Jamie McIntyre, our correspondent there at the Pentagon. Jamie, as always, thanks.
Russia